Welcome to Studio Snack. I'm Lydia Thornley, a multi-stranded creative practitioner who keeps forgetting to take breaks.
And I'm Narciso Oleda, a brand specialist with boundaries.
This month, we're taking a tea break, which is a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how people do business. There are companies so time pressured that they seem to have designed out breaks, managers trying to get people back into the office, and co-working spaces using breaks and breakout spaces to encourage members to network. So why are breaks good for business?
Having a break and actually a space to hang out with colleagues or co-workers is actually very good for the moral because it's a place where you can find about what's happening, the gossip, what's happening in the business, what's happening in other departments. But taking a break improves productivity, reduces stress, enhances creativity, and improves our physical health. One of the breaks I used to organize was the running club at the trampoline, and that was great to clear your mind and to stay fit. And also, we end up becoming friends with lots of them.
And it's important operationally too. The organisation ACAS notes breaks as important to avoid mistakes. I found some academic quotes on this as well. Dr. Annalie Gascoigne, who is Associate Professor in Occupational Psychology at Goldsmiths University, says, when we're feeling behind on work, or perhaps the workload pile seems endless, there can be a strong temptation not to take a break. But trying to maintain focus for long periods of time is also counterproductive. Over time, we're depleting our mental energy and often don't notice that happening.
Yes, and in a Baylor University study, employees who took more frequent and shorter breaks during the day reported higher energy, better concentration, and fewer aches and pains than those who took breaks less often. Researchers concluded that we should encourage to take frequent breaks. I had a look at what is the best time to take a break, and the majority of studies says that around 4 to 3 p.m. is a very good time to take a break because it's when your rhythm kind of takes a dip and that perks you up.
And that was backed up by our poll, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was backed up by our poll that basically most people said that mid afternoon were better than mid morning or early afternoon.
More morning pastries for me then.
Yes. I'm getting hungry from some nerdery talking about all this food. Lydia, do you have anything for us?
Of course I do. Reading Museum has some interesting insight on how a shift to a healthier, more balanced diet actually led to less sustaining foods, which meant more snacks between meals. Tea shops, milk bars, and snack bars grew up to cater for office workers' needs. And that was good for Reading's massive biscuit factory, Huntley and Palmer's, which we talk about in an earlier episode. We tend to think of no break culture as being a modern thing, but according to the UK Tea and Infusions Association, who knew that existed, between 1741, very precise that, and 1820, industrialists, landowners, and clerics tried to put a stop to tea breaks because they said they made workers slothful.
Mm.
Tea breaks date back to Victorian times when they were actually a status symbol. To have a servant whose job it was to make you tea. And that crossed over to offices where the tea lady would have a trolley and people would gather round to chat. What was on the trolley though? Well, there would be cake. Iced buns, a sort of bread roll, would be there, I recall. And tea breaks were the butt of jokes in the 1970s. There was even a song, Right Said Fred, about the sheer number of tea breaks the average British road worker would take and not get any actual work done. At about the same time, the tea lady was replaced by the vending machine, more likely, I would think, to wind people up than cheer them up. Now it's becoming part of the science of work. I found a BBC article talking about studies on micro breaks. And here in East London, it's part of co-working spaces facilities to provide a social element to membership and encourage casual networking. Oh, AI has just butted in. It suggests a digestive, rich tea or custard cream. Quite the traditionalist then. You might want to go back to our biscuit episode for that. And who are we to argue with the custard cream? Possibly our favourite biscuit at Studio Snack.
Yes.
So, how does this translate into our work in the creative industry? Well, I worked through several tea breaks writing the script for this episode, ironically, and I can confirm that I got less productive as I went on, determined to deliver it when I said I would. And there we have it, deadlines, other people, or our own. They force us into weird eating habits, especially when creative work takes longer than we think. Much as what we do is perceived increasingly as technical work, it isn't factory work with a fixed process. If we do it well, there's an element of discovery which is unpredictable. But you have better boundaries, don't you, Narcissus?
Yes, I try to have a little bit better boundaries. The other day in Here East, there was a bus, which is they call the Zen Project, and it's a really fantastic initiative. And that's what's going to be our WhatsApp interview today. Basically, they take American buses, they strip them all out and fit it with meditation pillows, benches, and they offer different activities like a sound baths, meditation sessions. We had a session with Monica here, the Tampere, and it was 5 minutes, but it actually changed the whole thing. So I went back to them and asked them if they would like to be part of our episode, and they said yes. So we spoke to Michael, and we asked him how often does he recommend to take breaks while he's in the office, and that's what he said.
Now, when I'm working on an office day, typically I like to do 25 minutes of deep work and then taking a 5-minute break, and doing that throughout the day. And then every couple of hours, taking a bit of a longer break for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And then, of course, having a proper hour to an hour and a half lunch break.
So it's interesting because it's exactly the same that Baylor University study said. More frequent, the better. The other question we asked was what is the most recommended things that he would do on those breaks, and that's what he told us.
My most recommended thing to do, especially the short ones, is it to be a break. And I mean a break from everything, not to go on your phone for 5 minutes, not to chat with anyone for 5 minutes, but just taking a moment to be still, to maybe just focus on some breathing and just do absolutely nothing and just allow no stimulation for the mind, and just letting the body and the mind have a total sort of 5-10 minutes of nothing and rest. And that can really help re-energize you. And the same again on the longer breaks is just keeping yourself mindful, focusing on one thing at a time, like your lunch, or if you are socializing with colleagues, keeping it social and keeping it away from work, and just letting that side of the mind that does work during the day to have a rest and find a bit more energy for when it comes back into work and back into the office.
And we plan our episodes in a break as well. We go to a local cafe, and it's good for us to have the break, it's good for the ideas, and it's also good for the local economy.
Yes. So that take us to our experiment, which the brief was very brief. It was basically make a snack alarm.
So, how did you get on with that?
So my first play was with sound, which I kind of thought it might be mixing with our sound experiment, and I was thinking that for me something that takes me out of the zone is when I hear a bag of crisps opening or some rattling of biscuits, potential biscuits. So that was what I've recorded. But then I kind of went a little bit more sophisticated, and I kind of went into a style of Wallace and Gromit sort of alarm, where a clock marks 3 and then the label activates the main electricity, so everything powers off, and also pushes a spring that pulls you out of the room. I draw it, and I also tried to visualize it in AI, and you'll be able to see it on our social media.
And I love how that for me brings to mind Heath Robinson. And we've been talking about doing a studio snack field trip to the Heath Robinson Museum in Pinner, so we may well do a return visit to that.
Definitely. So how did you get on, Lydia?
Well, mine is a thing of two halves. I did a sound experiment by way of video because I wanted teaspoon and mug. Also, it's a shameless plug for my Hello Petal exhibition mug, and showing off the mug I got to decorate while invigilating at the Tower Gallery exhibition Black and White.
Fantastic.
Surprisingly difficult though, especially when I had the bright idea of recording the kettle filling the mug, which I realised might Might make people want a loo break instead of a tea break. Then in illustration and photo montage, I made my tea break alarm clock with teaspoon hands. Now, I didn't think this through. Scaled for the teaspoons, the alarm clock face would be the size of my actual face. Though maybe that's no bad thing. I need a big reminder.
I think it's great though. It looks fantastic.
That will be on our Instagram feed as well,
Yes.
and on our blog posts. Join us next month for another studio snack.
Tea break?
Tea break.
Excellent.